Hello Summit County, I am Steele Spence and I am here today with my friend and friend of the entire ski industry, Mike Douglas. Mike, welcome back to Summit County. How are you?
Oh, it's good to be here, man. It's been a couple of years, but I'm stoked to be back.
Nice. Well, we're here for the Breckenridge Film Festival and the US premiere of your latest film project, Snowman. We're going to talk about Snowman in a moment here, but first I want to take this opportunity, since we have you here, to talk a little bit about free skiing, the history of free skiing and the role that you played in it. So you were there at a very exciting time in free skiing, the birth of free skiing, and in fact you were so instrumental, you've been dubbed the godfather of free skiing. You want to tell us something about what was going on in those days, some key players, and kind of how this sport evolved to what it is today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to paint a picture, if you weren't around the ski biz in the mid-90s, snowboarding was really on the rise,
yeah.
and was kind of where all the energy and excitement was, and skiing was starting to be viewed as a sort of old person sport. And myself and a bunch of my buddies, we were passionate skiers. There's no way we wanted to switch to a new sport, but we loved the energy that we saw in snowboarding. So we started going to the snowboard parks, as they were called back then, and tried to do the same kind of tricks that the snowboarders were doing, but on skis.
Yep.
And as it kind of went on, we started gaining some attention, and people were, shaking their heads at us and wondering what we were doing as we cruised around. And, over time, that kind of led to the design of a twin tip ski. We wanted to be able to ski forward and backwards. And funny enough, it was in this very town where we got to see the very first Salomon 1080 ski, which was the first high performance twin tip. And I think I was 98. And I was here with JF Cousin, JP Auclair, Vincent Dorian. We were here for the Freestyle World Cup right up on the hill behind us here.
Yep, Mach 1.
Yeah, and the next day we went over to Vail where they had the very first US Free Skiing Open. And that night after the competition, we got back to our hotel here in Breck, and waiting in our room was the very first 1080. And I'll never forget, we raced back to Vail for the awards. The JF and JP won the US Open that year.
Yep.
And JP held up the very first 1080 ski on the podium that night, and that kind of really kicked off that whole revolution, and then we've just been going for the ride ever since.
It did, and it's true, the Salomon 1080 really was the first true twin tip ski that allowed this progression to happen, and you were instrumental in the design of the ski, I believe, correct?
Yeah, well, we ended up, we kind of shopped the whole twin tip idea around to all the ski companies at the time,
yeah.
And they were all just like slamming their doors in our faces pretty much. Everyone thought it was a stupid idea.
What we're looking for is a ski company that shares this vision and is willing to help us take this sport into the future.
But Salomon in the end said, all right, let's make this happen. And I'd been working on some kind of specs and designs for the ski, and we ended up pretty much making what we drew out on paper.
Yep.
And that kind of started it all, and like I said, it's been a pretty fun ride ever since.
Yep, and it allowed so much progression to happen so quickly. Film has always played a part in skiing, from annual films, movie segments and annual skier segments onto webisodes, things like that. What kind of made you transition into filmmaking?
Well, more than anything, I just started getting old.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was in my mid-30s, and I'd always dabbled in film, like work a little bit on the behind the scenes of the ski films that I was in, and all this kind of stuff. And when I hit about 35, I was like, wow, you're not really supposed to be a pro free skier when you're past 35.
Stuff starts hurting.
Like, yeah, things hurt. This terrain park up here, the jumps are big.
Big.
I kind of was looking forward into my future. I thought, I want to stay involved in skiing. I want to keep this lifestyle going, but how can I keep this going? And film seemed like a natural avenue. And so at the time I started, really where it kind of transitioned for me was when we started Salomon Free Ski TV, which is the web series we've been doing now for 9 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
I never thought it would last this
wildly
long.
popular web series. You guys go amazing places, do incredible projects. What's some of the best parts about Salomon Free Ski TV?
Well, like I said, I mean, being a pro skier is pretty much the best job in the world. You know that because you've been living it as well. But you want to figure out a way to keep that rolling, and so we kind of focus the show on just adventuring and traveling around the world and showing skiing in different lights. For us, it's really evolved into trying to be better storytellers and try to, rather than just show you know, more the ski porn, but try to get into the stories behind the people and the places and all that kind of stuff. So we try to kind of blend those two worlds, and you know, it's been working.
Yep, and with Switchpack Entertainment, you've worked on some very cool storytelling projects, film projects over the past little bit. Coming up most recently here is Snowman. Snowman is based on the true story of a friend of yours. If you want to give us a little insight to this story and kind of what inspired you to make it.
Well, what inspired me to make it was my best buddy since I've been a little kid, Kevin Fogelin. He became an avalanche controller. And in 2009, he was out doing a bombing run in the mountains in British Columbia. Really, he was bombing a really big avalanche path and had a heli full of explosives, chucked a 50-pound bomb out the door of the heli, and about 5 seconds after he did that, the heli crashed into the slope. And the heli slides down the mountain, and they survived the impact. They managed to get out of the heli, and then the bomb goes off above them and starts an avalanche. And I'll leave it there. You got to see the film to see what happens.
I cannot wait to see this.
But the story was so incredible. It's like a Die Hard movie. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. And there was a whole bunch of other circumstances going on in sort of both of our lives at that time that were, you know, seemed like more than coincidence. And the original plan was to make a short film that kind of just told the story of that crash. But as we sort of peeled back the layers and dug into the story, we realized that there was a much bigger story there. And it ended up being a story about not only Kevin's life, but my own life in the end. And so the result is Snowman. And it's our first feature film that we've tried to tackle, which is a huge one. We've been working on it, you know, it's 4 years since we started, so it's arriving here is feels like we've come a long way. 4
years working on this project. Well, congratulations on that. I cannot wait to see it, as I said, and it debuted in Whistler at the Whistler Film Festival to a great response, I believe, correct?
Yeah, we did the world premiere in Whistler, hometown. Made sense, you know, just to have that, because a lot of it's based around there. But yeah, great response. Ended up picking up an award, and just the community feedback was incredible. And we're happy to be here though, and help get it out to a broader audience. And you know, I can't think of a better place to do the U.S. premiere than here in Breck, right in the heart of sort of ski country USA. Yep,
and I love hearing about your own personal history here. There has been a lot in our sport happening in Breckenridge over the years. So I know you just wrapped up this project. Do you have your eyes on anything in the future that you want to share, or are you just kind of focused on the premiere of Snowman at the moment?
Well, you know, it's funny because as a filmmaker, you're often what the public's seeing is what you were working on like a year or two ago.
Right.
So it's funny because I haven't really touched Snowman now in terms of editing or anything for almost a year. And it's kind of the way movies roll out. So we've got a couple of new films coming out this fall that I'm quite excited about. The first one that you'll see coming in October is a 50-year documentary about Whistler and the evolution of Whistler as a ski town. So I mean, I think a lot of people around Summit County will be able to identify with that, sort of the trials and tribulations of a ski town and a ski resort.
Yep.
So that's coming up in October, and then in November we've got a really cool one called Eclipse, and it's part of the Solomon series. But we sent a crew to the Arctic, to Svalbard, which is really close to the North Pole, last winter, to try and get a shot of a skier in front of a total solar eclipse, which is something that's never been done before.
Ambitious, yes.
And it worked, and the film, we're pretty stoked on it. It kind of came together how we sort of envisioned, and that'll be coming up in November this year. So.
That sounds incredible. Well, keep up the great work, Mike D. It was so cool to have you here. Congratulations on Snowman. We can't wait to see it. And for TV8 Summit, thank you so much.
Thanks, Steele.